Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3Iron, and as soon as we got the announcement that we were getting 350 new Spectres to play around with in Delirium League, there was much excitement amongst the Necromancer community, amongst the Summoner community, about all of the new different toys that we would be getting. Sure enough, someone has already put together a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of data that is absolutely gorgeous, and so we're going to walk you through that tool. That's one of the reasons why this is launched into and saved onto our POE Tools playlist, so that way anybody that's looking for POE resources and how they interact with Spectres are able to find them in that particular section. So, here is the post by Gardine. The spreadsheet is here. This is totally clickable. You can click on it and go to the original copy of the spreadsheet from that first link. And of course, all of these links are down below in the video description. For a copy that you can interact with, click here. I've already got a copy pulled up. We're going to take a look at what this looks like here in just a moment. Click the link at the top left of the sheet or use File, Make a Copy. You may require logging into a Google account if it's a lot of data and calculation, so copying and sorting can be a bit slow. I will let you know on my totally not high-powered PC, this took me a few minutes to load up my own copy of the Spectre data. So just be aware of that. If it's lagging or if it takes a minute to create a copy for you, it's not that it's froze, it's not that it's crashed, it's that there's so much data in this particular file, there is a lot to go through. So this list should contain all monsters capable of being raised as Spectres, but some of them on the list may not actually be raisable, such as ones with the unusable corpse tag, or cannot be used as minions mod, or enemies that just don't spawn, like Snake Flower Man or Dr. Testopus. Okay, so most stats will update with whatever level is put in the Spectre level entry, but a few, like Resists, assume map level Spectres for simplicity. DPS estimates include the most common skill stats, global damage cast, or attack speed multipliers, but not more specific stats nor mods on the monsters themselves, so treat them like a rough guide rather than gospel, or rather than an exact copy of here's the exact numbers, look at it as a rough guide, all right? So this isn't necessarily going to be the best way to calculate all of the DPS. The best way to calculate all of that is still going to be to go out to actually play Path of Exile and try something out with a Spectre setup. That being said, if you want to know what Spectres to maybe give us as a start or as a baseline understanding of which Spectres might be better than others, this is going to be an incredibly helpful resource for that. Also, a lot of the more recent enemies have trigger-based skills that I can't parse very well or at all. Furthermore, the AI scripts can be heavily impacted if or when skills are used. Check the POE DB listings for entries like Target is Player or I am not Spectre. All of the raw source of data is in the hidden sheets for the sake of easier updating. Use the view and then hidden sheets if you want to toy around with it, ripped using PYPOE. How to calculate monster skill damage was sourced from here, which this is a post mostly from Openarl about how exactly to calculate monster damage in Path of Exile. Again, all of this is included down below in the video description if you want to take a look further. So this is what a copy of the sheet looks like. It has got basically every kind of Spectre, whether or not they're raisable or not, involved. You can see here, just as you're looking, there are literally hundreds, thousands of cells of data here. How much does it go up to? Almost 3,000, 2,500 cells worth of Spectres that you can be looking through. And each of these has got its POEDB link associated with it right here. So as soon as, let's click on the Archer statue. As soon as you check that out, it will pull up the POEDB database for that particular Spectre. So if you want more data or if you want to take a look at it in a different format, you can do that. Now, on top of this, there's all kinds of stats that's included. The monster type is included along with its base life, its armor, its evasion, its energy shield, and then what its resistances look like. Then, of course, its attack distance, its basic attack damage, its times, its basic attack DPS, its highest skill DPS estimate, and then a whole bunch of different skill types associated with it. The amount of data that is included in this particular sheet, depending on the number of skills that a particular Spectre has, is ridiculous, all right? So if you're looking to play around with Spectres like me and you enjoy Summoners, then this is, of course, a beautiful, beautiful tool for us to use. Now, a couple of suggestions to go on from here. First off, I'm going to be working with this particular tool as my baseline as I'm trying out different Spectres, and we're going to have a playlist that's dedicated just to Spectres and to trying out Spectres. That was a really, really popular discussion piece that we did a couple of leagues ago where we showed off different popular Spectres. I am not going to make an exhaustive list of every single Spectre and how best you can use them. Rather, we will try to cherry pick and say, here are a couple of different options of Spectres, and here are some optimal or at least some suggested ideas for how you could use these Spectres. All of us in the Summoner community, we're used to Swiss Army knifing it. We're used to taking something and adjusting it and adapting an entire build around it or fitting into it a pre-existing build. So we're all used to doing that. So there's no, concerns there. Those of us in the Summoner community, we know how to take information and then test it in game. But if you're not used to doing that, this is a great baseline piece of information that's going to contribute to the conversation as we are trying to determine which Spectres can be best suited for which scenarios. Now, the last suggestion that I've got on this is that Path of Exile would actually implement something like this in game. We already know that the technology is there. Thanks to the bestiary, you can go in and you can look at different types of creatures. You can look at different types of monsters that you have captured in the bestiary. You can take a look at the ones that you've captured, the ones that you haven't captured. Now, we don't have all of the stats included, but we've got some wonderful text that is given to us in the bestiary. It's a lot of flavor if you want to read about whatever monsters you've captured. Essentially, my pitch would be, dear Grinding Gear Games, if not sooner, because this is a big ask, could we please have, for the sake of Path of Exile 2, could we have a bestiary style system where we can essentially scroll through and look at different monster types and look at their abilities and look at maybe some potential of their stats? If you want to keep their stats locked behind Excel spreadsheets and things like POE DB, I can understand that. But if we could even have just some flavor text as to who it is that the Spectres are that we're raising and what are some of their capabilities of doing, it would go a long way in helping new players identify that there are multiple different Spectres that they could even look at or potentially see or potentially use. I assume that for PoE 2, there's going to be a whole slew of even more monsters that are going to get added into the game. And so again, this would be a ton of work to add as a baseline of what we've already got, the number of Spectres that are introduced into the game, and then combining that into some sort of Necronomicon that we could use as Summoner players. Not all of us are Necromancers, but as Summoner players, as Necros, as we want to interact with Spectres. I think it would be a great option. Of course, not every monster in the game would have to go in there because not every monster in the game is summonable through Spectres. So this would be an incredibly niche thing. I get that. I get that we've just had a whole bunch of quality of life asked and added with Blight, as well as even with the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion for a lot of Necromancer play and a lot of Spectre play. I'm very thankful for the 350 plus Spectres that we've got here in 3.10. There's a lot of testing for us to do, but I think it would be great if in-game players, there's so many players who don't realize the tools that are available to them, like PoE DB or like spreadsheets like this, that are just very concise pieces of information to provide a baseline, to even give players some ideas, some creative, imaginative suggestions of how they can proceed forward with their build. So if there's any way that we can put that into the game and maybe bestiary as a template for it, I think that would be great. But if not, maybe that'll come later on down the line with PoE 2. Anyway, if you've got ideas or suggestions for Spectres or for which Spectres you would like to see featured in future discussion topics on this particular Necronomicon idea as we test out different Spectres, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, I hope the 3.10 Delirium League is the league a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.
Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.